Attention passionate Cleveland, BROWNS FANS. Latest news, something big is happening in the AFC North and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Cleveland Browns' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Cleveland Browns fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Cleveland, BROWNS FANS. Let's get to the news now, Browns fans. I have to tell you, the NFL offseason never slows down, and this year, we're witnessing some jaw-dropping developments that could reshape not only the AFC North but the entire league landscape. And no, I'm not just talking about the usual roster moves or draft picks. I'm talking about a potential seismic shift at the quarterback position, one that has Browns fans both excited and cautious about what's coming next. Let's dive into this story that's been buzzing around the NFL circles, especially for us Browns fans tuned into every detail, every rumor, every move that could impact our team's future. First, let's set the stage. Cleveland has been building a solid roster around a young, talented quarterback who's been showing flashes of brilliance. Our current QB situation is stable, with Deshaun Watson leading the charge. But as Browns fans, we know the NFL is a league of constant change. You never truly rest on your laurels, especially at the most critical position on the field. And that's exactly why recent rumors about the Jets and their quarterback situation have caught everyone's attention. Because, as wild as it sounds, the Jets are apparently considering making a bold move that could send shockwaves through the league, and Cleveland could be right in the middle of it. Now, I want to clarify something right away. This isn't just some idle speculation. There are credible sources and insiders who suggest that the Jets are eyeing a potential trade involving SHEDEUR Sanders, the young quarterback who's been making waves in his rookie season. And this is where it gets interesting, Browns fans. The Jets, who are famously aggressive in their pursuit of a franchise quarterback, might be willing to part with draft capital to secure a backup plan or future starter. Think about that. An AFC East rival potentially making bold moves to overhaul their quarterback room, and Cleveland, of course, watching closely. So, what's the story behind SHEDEUR Sanders? Well, for those of you who might not be fully aware, Sanders has been a polarizing figure coming into the NFL draft. He's a 23-year-old quarterback with a loaded college resume coming out of Colorado, where he showcased incredible talent, arm strength, and playmaking ability. But interestingly, he fell all the way to the 5th round, picked number 144 overall. That's a fall that surprised many analysts, especially considering his college production and raw talent. The reason? It mainly boiled down to his pre-draft interview process, which raised some red flags among NFL scouts. Some teams viewed him as a first-round talent, but others were more conservative, worried about his consistency and the level of competition he faced. Despite that, Sanders has undeniable talent. His arm strength, mobility, and ability to make off-schedule throws are qualities that scouts dream about. But the NFL is a league that values consistency and proven production, and that's probably why Sanders slipped so far. Still, it's worth noting that he's a guy with a lot of upside, and at just 23, he's still raw but incredibly promising. And here's where it gets interesting for the Jets. They've reportedly had multiple opportunities to draft him, but passed on him 5 times during the 2025 draft. For a team that's desperately searching for a franchise quarterback, passing on a player like Sanders is noteworthy. Now, I want to pause here for a second, because this is the kind of move that could be a game changer. The Jets, who already have Aaron Rodgers, are clearly invested in winning now, but they also have to plan for the future. Rodgers isn't getting any younger, and his injury history has always been a concern. So if they see potential in Sanders, especially as a developmental project or even as a future starter, they might be willing to take a gamble. And this is where Cleveland fans need to listen carefully, because such a move could influence the AFC North dynamics for years to come. The intriguing part is that the Jets might be willing to trade draft capital, like a 4th-round pick and a 6th-round pick for 2026 to get Sanders. Now, that might seem like a small price for some teams, but considering the Jets' recent investment in their roster, it's a significant move. They're looking for insurance, a backup plan, or maybe even a hidden gem that could take the reins if things don't work out with Rodgers or whichever quarterback they have on the roster next season. And as Dibble pointed out, it's a gamble that could pay off if Sanders develops as projected. But let's be honest, Browns fans, the real question here is, what does this mean for us? Well, for starters, it reminds us that the quarterback position is always a moving target. Cleveland has invested heavily in Watson, and he's been showing flashes of greatness. But in the NFL, you can never have too many options. The Browns, historically, have had their share of quarterback struggles, so watching other teams like the Jets actively pursuing young, high-upside talent only reinforces the importance of having a solid plan at that position. It also fuels the fire in our own camp, knowing that the league is constantly looking for the next big thing, the next franchise QB. Now, let's talk about Sanders himself, because he's a fascinating case. Not just because of his talent, but because of his journey. He's a player who dropped in the draft, not because of his physical skills, but because of perceived questions about his mental makeup during the pre-draft process. Some draft analysts considered him a first-round prospect, while others were much lower. Falling to the 5th round was a surprise for many, and that's why the Jets passing on him 5 times during the draft was a notable oversight, or at least a sign of how teams weigh different factors. But here's the thing, despite the draft fall, Sanders has made an impression in Browns training camp. Reports from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler say he's been focused, hardworking, and showing the kind of talent that made him a top prospect at one point. That's promising, Browns fans, because it means he's not just a project, he's a player with real potential. His athleticism and college production give him a high ceiling, and with the right development, he could be a serious threat in this league. That's why the idea of the Jets considering trading for him isn't just speculation. It's a real possibility that could impact the AFC East, and indirectly, the AFC North. Now, let's step back a bit and look at the broader picture. Cleveland's quarterback room currently includes Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and SHEDEUR Sanders. That's quite a mix of experience and youth, and it's clear the Browns are keeping their options open. But in the NFL, especially at quarterback, stability is key, and having multiple options, especially young ones with upside, can be a strategic advantage. If Sanders continues to develop and impress in training camp and preseason, the Browns might have a decision to make in the coming months. Do they keep him as a potential future starter, or do they consider trading him if the right opportunity arises? And that's where the Browns' front office needs to be sharp. Because, as Browns fans, we know all too well that nothing is ever certain until it's done. We've seen promising prospects fade away, and we've seen middling trades turn into franchise-altering moves. So, if the Jets or any other team shows real interest in Sanders, Cleveland needs to be prepared for that possibility, whether it's to hold on to him and develop him, or to leverage the situation for draft capital or other assets. But why would the Jets be so interested in Sanders, you ask? Well, like I mentioned earlier, quarterbacks are like lottery tickets. The more you have, the better your chances of hitting on a franchise guy. The Jets have invested in Aaron Rodgers for now, but they're also aware that life after Rodgers is inevitable, and the hunt for the next QB is always ongoing. Sanders, with his raw talent and potential, could be that hidden gem they're willing to develop quietly behind Rodgers, or even eventually replace him if things go well. Plus, the Jets are famous for their aggressive moves. Just look at their recent trades and free agent signings. They're not afraid to take risks, especially at a position as critical as quarterback. Now, let's consider the Browns' perspective. We've got a talented roster, and we're heading into a season where everything seems to be aligned for a serious playoff push. The addition of a young quarterback with high upside could be a game changer, not just for the future, but potentially for this season. If Sanders impresses in camp and preseason, he could be a valuable trade chip or even a future starter if Watson encounters any setbacks. Cleveland's front office has shown in the past that they're willing to make bold moves, and keeping an eye on developments like this is part of the game. Because, let's face it, in the NFL, you can never truly have too many good quarterbacks. And here's another angle to think about. How does this potential move impact division rivals like the Bengals, Ravens, and Steelers? Well, if the Jets improve their quarterback situation significantly, it could elevate their competitiveness in the AFC East, which in turn affects the Browns indirectly by shifting the power balance within the conference. Cleveland has been steadily building a contender, and a strong Jets team, with a talented young quarterback like Sanders possibly in the mix, would make our road to the playoffs even more challenging and exciting. Now I want to circle back to the broader implications of this story. The NFL offseason is a chess game, and every move, every trade, every draft pick has ripple effects. The Browns are in a great position right now, with a solid roster, a franchise quarterback in Watson, and talented young players developing behind the scenes. But staying alert to developments like these, where other teams might be eyeing our potential assets, is crucial. Whether we're talking about trading Sanders later in the year or just watching how the situation unfolds, one thing is for sure: Cleveland fans can't afford to take their eyes off the prize. In conclusion, Browns fans, the NFL landscape is shifting, and the quarterback market is hotter than ever. The potential trade of SHEDEUR Sanders to the Jets for draft picks might seem like just another offseason story, but it's much more than that. It's a reminder that in football, everything is interconnected. Our team's future could hinge on these moves, and it's up to us to stay informed, optimistic, and ready for whatever comes next. Because the Cleveland Browns are always in the fight, always striving for greatness, and with every new development, we get one step closer to another Super Bowl run. And now, Cleveland Browns fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this whole SHEDEUR Sanders situation? Do you believe the Jets are serious about making this move? Could Sanders be a hidden gem that changes the AFC landscape? Or do you think Cleveland should be cautious and hold on to him as a future piece? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Browns. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Cleveland Browns news. We're in this together, and the best is yet to come.